Walkout with Paul and Jay, with red hot stories from post game, interviews, analysis, within the hour, right here at the Growler.
All right, welcome into the Walkout presented by Cincy Shirts. Paul Dehner Jr., Jay Morrison here with you from inside of Paycor Stadium on a day where, Jay, it went as the season has gone.
Yes, very familiar.
It's a type of year where it just seems like no matter what, you end up in these same talking points. This particular one is the one that ends with checks notes. 44 points for the Pittsburgh Steelers and 38 points for the Cincinnati Bengals. The defense hemorrhages once again. The Bengals score tons of points once again. Joe Burrow gives a sad eulogy post-game press conference once again, and the Bengals are 4-8. This season is over.
Yeah, not once again. This is new. This 4-8 thing is new ever since. Well, since they made, Burrow's rookie year, yeah, it was bad. But since then, this you didn't expect at all. No, I don't think anybody thought this defense was going to be great. Nobody expected this team to be sitting here at 4-8. And what wasn't like before is the defense made plays. The Bengals got in front early. Cam Taylor-Britt, a pick six to start the game. It had been 24 games since they'd had a defensive touchdown. Got everything. You got a big, it was a penalty, but you got a big hit, kind of a tone setter early in the game. It looked like this might be different. And then it was just more of the same. Confusion, missed tackles, guys running wide open in the secondary, touchdown drive after touchdown drive after touchdown drive. And that's how you get to 44 points, 520 yards, and a season-ending loss, most likely, in terms of any hope for the playoffs.
Yeah, they've been circling the drain for a month now where you could see where this thing ends. Today was the flush. Yeah. This was one final cover zero botch against the Steelers, which is all too familiar from years ago, where it just sort of ends things. To me, it was the combination of all of it. It was the lack of effort, it felt like at times in the first half. It was all of the missed tackles. It was so much of it where it was scheme, it was personnel, it was execution. It was anything that you can do wrong. It was totally being unaware that maybe Justin Fields might run the ball in this situation, and you should try to account for him in a big late game spot. And it was just over and over again, the same types of things that have dogged this team all year long. We're going to get into our points here in a moment, but I do want to remind everybody, home of all of our live shows, of course, and an awesome place to go to for any big event downtown, BetMGM Nation Kitchen and Bar at the Banks. Make sure you check it out. Our next live show will be before the Browns game on the 22nd, but you can go down there for the UFC fights have become a hugely popular thing down there. There's no cover, no anything, big TVs, all your betting. You can come say hi to Jay when he's winning his second chance drawing on Thursday nights, continues to win down there. So many great events. It's a great venue. We hope you guys go down there and check that out, of course. And of course, thanks to our great friends at Cincy Shirts that sponsor the Walkout. All your Cincy merchandise is there, cincyshirts.com. Use the promo code GROWLER and you get 10% off any of your orders. If you're looking for Christmas gifts, you have friends that lived here once, don't live here anymore, love the city, whatever, doesn't matter. Tons of Cincy shirts. All Cincy gear is there for you. CincyShirts.com, a great place to give any Christmas gift. Jay, I have a few. There are many historical stats that you can take away, but what is the lead item for you after this game?
It kind of goes back to what we talked about in the open about the same thing over and over again. The Bengals are now the only team in NFL history to lose 4 games in which they scored 33 points in the same season. It's just, there are only 3 other teams that done it 3 times, and they've done it 4. The 85 San Diego Chargers still went 8-8 despite losing 3 games. The 02 Kansas City Chiefs, the 2017 Houston Texans. Texans lost 3 of their first 8 by scoring 33 and still losing. Chiefs lost 3 in their first 7. Bengals now at 4 times in 12 games. 5 more to add to that record. Could be an untouchable record.
No question. And the other thing about it is They are 2-4 in games where they score at least 33 points this year. The rest of the league, 51-1. The rest of the league is 51-1. The 4 losses that they have this season is more than any team in the last 4 seasons combined. To have that many times where this happens, it is absolutely unbelievable. This is historical stuff. I got a couple more that I can pull out for you. I was just kind of trying to go through the list of some of the historically bad elements to this defense right now. 5 times the Bengals have given up at least 6.5 yards per play and 34 points in a game this season. That is tied for the second most in a season in NFL history. Detroit set the record with 6 such games in 2020. Plenty of time to go for that record, folks.
Yeah.
Lots of records are still in play. Let's see. The Bengals are now 0-7 against teams that would have made the playoffs if the season ended today and allowing 36.4 points per game in those contests. Nice effort. The 4 losses when they scored at least 33 points this year. I mentioned that about the other 4 seasons combined. These are just crazy, crazy numbers. And it leads me to my main point and my main takeaway. It's something that we have talked about on different podcasts about the possibility of this. I feel like it's a really hard thing to discuss because of what Lou Anarumo has meant to this franchise. And I don't think he forgot how to coach. I don't think he suddenly doesn't know what he's doing. The message is not getting across anymore. Mm-hmm. There's just no question about it. Well, whatever's going on there today, people, whether it's not knowing what's going on, whether it's too many men, whether it's, just guys continuing to run open, this has been happening all year. And you have all of these young players that are not getting better. It is so much the point of this is that these young players that they are dependent upon, 9 top 100 picks out of the last 11 top 100 picks, 9 of them on the defensive side of the ball. Tell me who made contributions there, has been part of the answer. Chris Jenkins, McKinley Jackson, Miles Murphy, DJ Turner, Jordan Battle, Dax Hill, Cam Taylor-Britt, Zach Carter, Joseph Osai. That's the thing. Those are your guys that need to be making plays, making contributions, part of the answer now and in the long term. And I don't know that you can say that you're seeing that direction happening from everyone. When it feels like the message isn't connecting, it's time to blow it all the way up. This was, to me, the final straw on that. I mean, it took all doubt away. And Joe Burrow said it after the game, talking about how, look, obviously there needs to be a lot of changes. We haven't won enough. I think it's pretty easy to say it's a tough one, but it feels like this might have been the last straw game when it comes to the long term of Lou Anarumo surviving this season.
Yeah, and I think the most damning part, take the numbers out of it. You mentioned the effort. We've seen the last 3 years, the Bengals have come out of the bye on fire. For whatever reason, they handle it the right way. They've come out. They've won 3. They had won 3 in a row post bye. They had never had a winning streak after the bye. The most they'd ever won in a row after the bye was 1, and they'd done it 3 times. And it was because of the way they came out of that. And for that to happen today, you're coming out of the bye. Your season's on the line. You got a division rival. It's the Pittsburgh Steelers. You know what kind of street fight it's going to be. You know what kind of effort it's going to take to beat these guys. And they just look disinterested. They didn't, maybe it was too cold. I don't know what it was. They didn't look like they wanted to tackle the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they didn't. They whiffed over and over and over again. And it's going to be really interesting to talk to Lou Anarumo tomorrow to see what his missed tackle count was. All the various sites have their own numbers. I trust Lou's numbers as much as anybody. I will say, I said the numbers didn't matter, but they've given up 113 points in their last 3 games. There's only one 3-game stretch in Bengals history that was worse. 130 points in 3 games in 2018. And at the end of that 3-game stretch, they fired defensive coordinator Terrell Austin.
I feel like we've ended up at these same spots in these conversations, right? Where it has been, it's compared to the worst couple of seasons we've ever seen from a defense, because we've just never seen anything quite like this. It's just not taking. And it's one, the 2018 team, you liked a lot of the things that were happening on offense. You can go back to some of the teams you like. This is Joe Burrow playing great. Again, I mean, 3 straight weeks now they've posted the 30-plus number and come away with a loss in these games that you've got to have. And it's just it wears on him. And Burrow talked about that after the game and in what was yet another revealing post-game press conference kind of from him, where he said, yeah, I feel it. I feel the pressure. And I feel that week after week, that the need to kind of be great. And he's like, I take that on and I feel like I can do anything. Kelsey Conway asked if he feels like it's sustainable. I feel like I can do anything. You can't do this.
No.
You can't do this. And it's not just this, it's the hits pile up.
Yeah.
You're playing from behind. You're forced to throw all the time. They actually had the running game going early today, but you're forced to throw, and the other team is pinning their ears back, and you're having to keep up. And he talked about needing to change to being a playmaker, where in a lot of situations in a game, in a normal game, where they're not in the situation that they're currently in with their defense specifically, we're inferring that. He didn't say that specifically, but you're checking it down. You're willing to go to the tight end. You're willing to throw it underneath, but he knows at this point that they're at in the season, he needs to be making plays, and that means climbing into traffic. That means holding the ball an extra tick. That means taking hits. That means all of that, and that stuff continues to pile up for a guy that does not need to pile up anymore on. And, I don't – it doesn't take a rocket scientist or anybody other than 2 eyeballs and a pulse to know that their defense is just terrible. But, I mean, I think the amount to how far will the change go, I think Burrow kind of talked about how the cornerstones of this organization will be defined not by – by this season, but beyond this season, how they react to this. I think the reaction is far more than just how you play over the next couple of games. That message needs to be a reaction that goes beyond that. It needs to be significant change. And that certainly seems like the most significant. And it doesn't absolve the rest of the organization. Like, nobody's out here saying that this means that's a comment that suggests, oh, yeah, you just get rid of Lou Anarumo and it's clearly everything's going to be fixed if that's what you do. No, the personnel department has still failed. Yep. Duke Tobin has still failed. Everybody has their hands in it. Again, everybody has their hand in the cookie jar in this one. Zach Taylor, you name it. They're all in it. The way this defense is performing, the historically poor nature is on absolutely everyone. But again, that's not something that's going to get totally overhauled.
No.
All you can do is start with every player, every coach is in the conversation to be moving on from or figuring out whatever they need to do next, because all of it needs to be started over. Just a full. You ever seen those? It's the old Bugs Bunny cartoon, right? Yeah. And he's got the dynamite stick like this, and he puts his fingers in his ears, and he just goes and pushes down.
Yep.
Sometimes it doesn't work in the Bugs Bunny cartoon, but this is the one where you just push it down and you wait to see what happens. It has to be a totally start from ground zero. My question to you, Jay, would be like, who do you build around? Where do you build around?
It's a great question. I don't know who you build around. I don't know when you pull the plunger out and do it. Does it make sense to do it right now, to send a message with 5 games left in the year, or do you just ride it out and blow it up in the offseason? When they typically let coaches go, I don't know what the right answer is there. I don't think it's going to make a difference if in performance if you do it right now. Maybe a message gets sent and guys are a little more serious and they're putting a little more effort on tape. That was something Joe Burrow mentioned in his press conference today too. What you put on tape lives forever. Mm-hmm. I think that was a very pointed comment to some people on this team. So I don't know when they pull the trigger or push the plunger, but I don't think it matters. It needs to be done, and it seems like it will be done. I don't know what Lou and this defense could do in the next 5 weeks to save his job.
Yeah, I don't. Again, it would be one thing if you felt like, man, this season still has a chance. Yeah, it'd be like if you felt like a change in message, or there's nowhere to go necessarily with it. Where is that message coming from? Who you going to? What's the interim? What is that? How does it change anything that's going on? I don't know that that's necessarily going to change anything too. When the season, I mean, people can sit here and say, well, they're still technically alive. Yeah. I mean, there's nothing changing now that's going to change where this season has eventually gone. So I don't have necessarily a need. I don't think there should be a desire to like, oh, do it today. I mean,
No.
maybe you do it just to say it's over. Like we can't, because you're just not going to tolerate, like you said, the message. You don't need heads to roll right now. To me, this is all about looking towards 2025 and hard restarts. And there are plenty of people you could bring in here outside, fully fresh voices and names that can come in and turn a defense around and have you playing well. We've seen that across the league with other groups that can happen. And I think that they have enough pull with Burrow on the other side to do that. And when you have that option, it just feels like it's something that you have to. I don't know that it matters much whether you do it now or at the end of the season or whatever, but that and what's gone on all year, you just can't let it continue. You can't say run it back just because of what's happened here in the past. And honestly, coordinators don't last that long.
No.
It's not like there's a thing where there's this world where coordinators are always sticking around for 6 seasons. I mean, that's just, you either are getting promoted or you're getting fired. It's the life of a coordinator in this league. And that doesn't mean that these guys can't coach again. And in fact, I would expect Lou Anarumo to pick something up pretty quickly if that is how this ends up going. But the timing of it to me is irrelevant. It's about 2025 at this point. And you could tell that in the locker room that it certainly feels that way now. Everybody understands that, look, this is what it is. This is now about 2025, and they turn to a bunch of young players to try to see what they've got there. They certainly need to start getting something there.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you I don't know if bench is the right word because the way they rotate, but maybe you take some of Sam's snaps away and just stick Miles Murphy in there and get him some more play. You saw it today. They put Jordan Battle in to start for Von Bell. Von only played a dozen snaps. Jordan pretty much ran it back there. He got beat. I don't think he was one of the ones that stood out the most as one of the biggest problems, but he did get beat on a deep ball. And there are other young guys, Logan Wilson's dealing with whatever this knee injury is. Maybe you put Jung Meta in and get him some more snaps, get Osai some more snaps. Start figuring out what you have with these young guys, what they can do, and what kind of effort they are willing to play with the season, what it is.
I want to talk about Germaine Pratt real quick. So we've kind of hinted and tipped around at missed tackles and effort stuff. I mean, I felt like in the first half between Geno Stone and Germaine Pratt, the two of them standing out as the biggest offenders to those two issues, just not making plays, not seeing the full effort. I mean, Stone with so many missed tackles. Pratt just seemed like he was just never really there. I approached Germaine. We were, as part of it, people were coming up in the first times, opened up with like, what did you feel like about the missed tackles and how confounding that was to have all of those, thinking I'm giving kind of a softball chance. Yeah. Missed tackles. What, missed tackles? What, like, not thinking that missed tackles were even an issue. Like, what do you mean missed tackles? And asking about effort, and nobody thought the effort was an issue. It was just all about, the ball getting out so quickly. It got out quick on screens, apparently got out quick on deep passes. It got quick. They just kept checking it down, and apparently there's no way to adjust to that. It's amazing. How does anybody ever stop a check down in the NFL? Who knew that apparently that's all you have to do is just check down underneath people, and then you'll just gain
520 yards.
520 yards.
Missed tackles
in a game. Yeah, I mean, that's that type of stuff when you like, just a complete lack of awareness.
Yeah.
And on top of playmaking and the effort stuff that you see from a captain in the middle of your defense on the day when they really needed him without Logan Wilson to come up and play a great game, it just speaks volume to some of the disconnect that's happening, really with everybody and a part of the problem. And it kind of goes back to the beginning of the, like, everybody's at fault here, but that certainly stood out. And that reaction was one of the craziest, most mind-blowing things I've ever heard in a postgame.
Yeah. Cause I mean, we asked Mike Hilton the same thing, and he's like, look, there was a lot, but those guys made plays. They made us miss. They get paid too. That was a more respectable answer. The Germaine thing, I could almost see it if he would have got pissed and be like, how dare you question me about making tackles, that kind of thing. But to just have the total lack of awareness of what missed tackles, what are you talking about? There were so many. And again, going back to whatever number Lou comes up with tomorrow, he said it after the Patriots game in the opener, 14, most they'd ever had in his time here. That there had to be more than 14 today. And for Pratt to not even know what we were talking about, it's stunning.
Yeah, absolutely stunning. All right. So let's, we've talked a little bit about Burrow in the post game and what we heard from him. Jamar Chase, very short. I think he's kind of like over the idea of making news after the games, or at least he was today. Just very much like, look, the margin of error has been thin for a while. It's a lot of the same stuff, and it feels like there was a resignation feel. Now the locker room closed and cleared out quickly, as you might imagine, but there was such a feel. I don't know, Jay, maybe you felt it differently, but it felt like such a feel of resignation to me, as you would expect in the situation. They should be resigned. That's what they were. There's the sign that is up above the 50 that gets hung every game. This one, it said finish today.
I didn't even be able to see it back there.
Yeah, it said finish. I feel like they could have just had a little bit more unrolling to do and added an ED onto the end, finished, which is kind of how it felt, and where they actually are.
Yeah, first time all year we didn't hear a lot of football left to be played. They understand where they are. I thought it was interesting. Jamar was very short in his answers. At one point, he was asked about the defense, and are you surprised by this performance? And he turned his head and he looked over to where all the defensive guys were, kind of like to maybe see who all was over there, like he wanted to pop off or say something. I don't know if he thought better of it or if he saw a couple guys over there, but he just said, I don't know. And he said that a few times. He said they've got to be better. We've got to be better. Simple answer, but the truth. I mean, they've got to be better. I don't know how they could be worse, but we say that every week seemingly, and they find a way to get worse. Steelers are a good team. It's not a good offense. It's a pedestrian offense. 520 yards, 44 points. Yes, one touchdown was a defensive touchdown. Burrow did have 3 turnovers, but that defensive performance, I'd have to think about it, study the numbers. That's got to be the worst of the year. Coming out of the bye, what this game was, what the effort looked like, who it was against. That has to be the rock bottom point for this defense.
I mean, it can always go lower, but certainly didn't when you still had stakes and all of that. I mean, it was only a couple of weeks ago the Steelers had gone 7 straight quarters without a touchdown. That's who you were up against. And then today, Russell Wilson having the most passing yards in a game since 2017 for him. Second most ever for Russell Wilson today. So, hey, another uplifting walkout. What a great time the walkouts have been this year. I do want to thank our friends at Cincy Shirts who have been here with us all season on the walkout. And despite there hasn't been a whole lot of positive viral shirts to come out of this season, you still can go and get all of the stuff that they have there. And you can get your gear for 2025. Maybe this is a time some 2025 hope shirts show up. Right, it's time to start making some shirts for 2025. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's lean into that.
Or play off of Burrow's quote: "What you put on tape is forever. What you put on T-shirts is forever."
There we go. We're making things happen right now. Of course, we will continue to make things happen for you as we go on throughout the week. So make sure you check that out. You mentioned we're going to be talking to Lou Anarumo tomorrow. We'll have our normal balls on Tuesday with myself, Jay, Mo Egger. You know how it goes. We'll be back on our normal routine, then back with a Monday night football game next week against the Dallas Cowboys. I want to thank everybody for following along with us here and hanging out on the walkout. And we will talk to you next time. Have a good one, everybody.